Manhattan, Kansas, as the Texas Longhorns come to town to take on the Kansas State Wildcats from Bramlage Coliseum. Welcome, everybody, to Big Monday, presented by Bud Light. It is part of Judgment Week, presented by Jockey. And let's take a look at the standings in the Big 12 Conference. Sitting on top, and who would have thought this at the beginning of the season, particularly with the Longhorns losing Kevin Durant. The Horns on top, followed by Kansas. Then comes K-State, and four clubs tied at 500, 6-6. Now let's take a look at our Star Watch, brought to you by Bass Pro Shop. And the two gentlemen tonight, two All-American players. DJ Augustine, second in the Big 12 in scoring. He leads the Big 12 in assists. And Michael Beasley leads the Big 12 in scoring and leads the nation in rebounding at 12 and a half. Hi, everybody. Ron Franklin, and welcome to Manhattan, Kansas. Fran Frischella is here, along with Holly Rowe. We'll visit with Holly shortly. Well, when you look at these two All-Americans, two absolute great players.
Well, they are. The spectrum of Kevin Durant looms large tonight because, remember, back-to-back Big 12 Players of the Year, possibly with Michael Beasley. On the other hand, Ron, who would have thought, as you mentioned earlier, that Texas would be better maybe a year later with Kevin Durant gone to the NBA.
And we will play the officials tonight. The referee is Curtis Shaw. Ted Hillary and Tom O'Neill are the umpires. Beasley prepares to jump it up against Damian James for the Longhorns. Ball is in the air. The tip will go to the Wildcats.
Key now for Texas. Michael Beasley coming off a 44-point night. So how do they defend him?
Beasley for three was guarded closely by Mason, passed the ball, and the offensive player had already vacated the spot, so turnover to open the game against the Wildcats.
DJ Augustine, Ron, mini shooting slump, but it never affected his ability to run this Texas offense over the last 7 games.
Augustine gets a screen out high. Ball is kicked. 15 seconds on the shot clock. Tonight's starting lineups brought to you by Papa John's. And Augustine, Abrams, Mason, James, and Ashley for the Longhorns. And for the Wildcats, Clint Stewart, Blake Young, Andre Gilbert, a surprise starter tonight, Bill Walker, and Michael Beasley as they choose to go big, friend.
They do. Gilbert started a number of games this year. He gives them another large body versus the Longhorns.
On the run.
So that's Augustine, Ron, getting his groove going again. Remember, he was hanging around the 20s shooting percentage for a while.
Beasley missed the shot, touched last by Beasley. It will go over to the Longhorns. Well, K-State at home, Fran, has been nothing short of spectacular.
Well, they have played like a top 10 team in this building, and the numbers really speak for themselves.
Mason throws to Abrams. Quick firing of the three, and then Mason scrambles for the rebound and gets it. James now for three. That one is short and rebounded by number 2 Blake Young, the senior out of Orlando. Inside, and they get the ball to Beasley. No surprise there, and he scores easily. But the Longhorns in transition to Ashley at the other end, and he will jam it home for the 2.
Ron, this is what Ashley did to Kevin Love early in the year. He ran the floor and forced Kevin Love to defend both ends.
Walker blocked by Ashley. Gets the ball off to Damian James.
Remember this offense, Augustine will handle it about 70% of the time.
Augustine along the baseline. Turns around, falling away with a jumper. That one is a little too hard and off the back iron.
If you're going to guard Michael Beasley one-on-one inside, you must get great pressure on the perimeter.
It is Abrams who will pick up the foul. Let's go back and look at that block by Connor Ashley just a moment ago on Walker.
Well, keep in mind, Connor Ashley has had 2 blocks in the last 5 consecutive games, and because of his length, and his ability to stay out of foul trouble, he has become a force inside defensively.
4-2 Longhorns in the early going. Texas in the last 2 ball games has blocked, 21 shots?
Yep.
Stewart for 3, just a little too hard, and that one will go back to the Longhorns. Frank Martin, the head coach, first year here at Kansas State. You can see his record of 18-8. He was the #1 assistant under Bob Huggins until Huggs left last year to go to West Virginia. Abrams not there. Tip inside. Won't go, and Beasley comes away with a rebound.
I'm a little surprised that DJ Augustine has been so aggressive in the early going.
I can tell you why. His head coach said, don't talk about tired legs. He said, I want you to start taking open shots and we'll rebound if you miss.
Yeah, but the last couple, Ron, there have been defenders on him. I would be a playmaker early.
Axley picks up the foul, his first, and the team's second. Rick Barnes in his 10th season as the head coach at Texas and may be headed to his finest coaching job since he's been there.
One thing Texas can throw at you now if you're Michael Beasley is big bodies. Rick Barnes has gone to his young bench a lot more lately.
Stolen by Augustine. And he will reverse it and score on Walker.
Well, I wasn't sure he needed to do that, but just a terrific move. Now you see Johnson.
Gary Johnson in the ball game. Shot is short, and Johnson comes away with it. Ball inside, stolen by Beasley. Here come the Wildcats. Offensive foul, Beasley.
Well, solid call. Of course, our seats here, Ron, unlike any other arena in the Big 12, we're at the 20-yard line, so we had a good look. And as long as Augustine is established, he's allowed to back up. Ted Hillary said he was in legal guarding position. You don't see Beasley get out of control that often.
Pulling into the ball game. We talked about the surprise start by Gilbert, but pulling the 6'1" guard out of Maywood, Illinois, has checked into the lineup, and he has been just a hot pepper for them for the entire conference season, for that matter.
Yes, another turnover. Well, DJ Augustine, the catalyst, offensively and defensively. First the steal, and then with Walker in pursuit, the reverse.
Okay, so we stand at 6-2, top of the 7th, and let's check in with the third member of our crew, who is Holly Rowe.
Well, guys, Michael Beasley is coming off a game Saturday where he had 44 points, a new Big 12 single-game record. So I asked Texas coach Rick Barnes how they would defend him tonight. He said, we have to be who we are. We have to play Texas defense. That defense is ball pressure, keeping the ball out of the low post, and he said, that starts with great perimeter pressure. He also said we have to have great rotations that make plays on the backside, and he said we're doing a much better job when they do a drive from the perimeter of stopping those splits. He also said that their pick and roll defense is much better, that the defender who sets the player that sets the screen, their defender is not letting him get separation. So overall, Rick Barnes very pleased with his defense, and he should be. They've only allowed 47 points in their last 2 games combined.
Good. Thanks, Holly. Beasley missed again. They are only 1 of 7 from the field. Gary Johnson with the shot. That's a little too hard. And Gilbert back in the lineup. He'll rebound.
Well, now you see the freshman pulling in the game quickly.
The ball is turned over as Pullen passes it for Gilbert right here in front of us. And that is now 4 turnovers against the Wildcats.
Pullen has had, as you mentioned, Ron, some very good games. Career high 20 against Kansas, and some typically freshman-like games in the Big 12.
Bounce pass into traffic.
See, right now,
That's Mason that they pick up the foul.
See, Rick Barnes not happy with B.J. Augustine's decision-making early. The one problem Texas gets into at times is when Augustine has the ball too much.
Jumper in and out. Beasley with the tip.
You must get a body on him on every shot because the way Kansas State passes inside, Beasley's best offense comes off the missed shot.
Damian James for three.
Boy, how about his improvement from behind the arc this year? 46%.
You know, Craig, you have talked about it, friend, about last year what was expected of him, and this year a totally different role. They want his offense.
Yep.
Last year they weren't interested in that, and that shot right there is he takes it all the way a little too hard. Behind the back to Beasley, and he will score.
Well, Rick Barnes wanted the charge.
Beasley has got all 6 Kansas State points.
We've seen Beasley get it on his own. We've seen him get an offensive rebound, and that time he ran the floor.
Abrams for three. Nope. That three off the mark, but Beasley is right there to rebound it, and he was blocked by Damian James. He's being frustrated by the blocks, but I thought that was a clean one, didn't you?
Yes, he was behind the basket, Ron, so Damian James never gave up verticality, and Beasley had to jump into him. Referee Ted Hillary was right on that call.
Walker gets the pass inside, and now a skip pass to Gilbert. Working against Damian James, and the ball tipped last by Mason. 17 seconds on the shot clock. Damian James was winded after that court-long sprint that he made with the basketball, so they take him out of the game, and Wanmani will come in replacing him. There he is, number 15. Anderson comes in along with Sutton for Kansas State.
Well, Rick Barnes has certainly gotten more confidence in his bench as Big 12 play has gone on, especially the young guys, Wanmani, Chapman, Pittman.
Strong to the hoop, and he scores. Poland. That's the kind of play that the 2 times we've come up here, and also when he was out in Lubbock that we watched his ball game, these are the kind of creative things that he does, and he gets them going.
Well, the young man is from Proviso East, which has put out a number of great point guards. And remember, as we mentioned earlier, Ron, he had 20 in the streak-breaking win over Kansas on January 30th. But like a freshman, you see on Saturday, 1 point in 19 minutes.
Well, Anderson will grab the rebound. Dominique Sutton. He's been plagued with a knee problem. He's wearing a brace on it tonight. Not playing quite as many minutes as Bullen drives the middle, passes in the corner, and Stewart unlucky on a shot, and Wanmani will rebound it.
Good decision by the freshman Pullen. A little dribble drive, kick out.
Actually picked up his second foul a moment ago. He's got to be careful. Bouncer inside to Wanmani. Pushes off, did not get a call, and it's going to be rebounded by Kansas State. Walker got it. Pullen. Well, Gentlemen Week presented by Jockey continues tomorrow on ESPN, 7 o'clock Eastern. The Ohio State Buckeyes meet Eric Gordon and the Indiana Hoosiers. And at 9 Eastern, the top-ranked Tennessee Volunteers take on the Vanderbilt Commodores. Super Tuesday presented by KFC on ESPN.
I've been told there's a country music surprise at the beginning of that Tennessee-Vanderbilt game. Stay tuned.
Second foul on Abrams. 2 on Ashley, 2 on Abrams early.
See, right now, you must go into Beasley. He's got the freshman on him.
Wanmani As Beasley gets it back outside. This is Stewart falling away, kisses it off the glass. Clint Stewart.
Well, the senior from Tulsa has made 88 starts in his career. Very experienced.
Augustine, the whistle had blown.
Foul is called on Kansas State's Ron Anderson.
Anderson will pick up the foul. K-State 11-10. Longhorns lead it. We'll be right back. This telecast is available on ESPN HD, presented by Olivia, live and in color. Well, for the second straight year, a Big 12 freshman has commanded the national spotlight.
To the friend, Dylan Friend. Already says anything you can do, I could be better. He's as good as it gets in college basketball.
The National Player of the Year.
Here comes Beasley.
You can't defend that.
He won't miss this one.
We'll get another double-double for Michael Beasley.
Well, Fran, I just know one thing. We both are extremely spoiled as you look at those numbers, which are almost identical, to have seen Kevin Durant last year and then Beasley this year. Two truly spectacular freshman basketball
That's
players.
right, Ron. And if you don't know the story, these guys played together when they were 11 years old at the Seat Pleasant Recreation Center in Maryland. They played for Stink Brown, who does a great job with young kids there. And Ron, I didn't think we would see a freshman have the kind of year that Kevin Durant did for the next 10 or 15 years. And for Michael Beasley to basically duplicate it has been an amazing accomplishment. Of course, they talk quite often, and Pete, what did Michael tell us today? They're not friends this week.
Augustine knocks down a three. He said, yes, we did talk just briefly, and we decided we were not friends this week. We'll communicate after this ball game.
Well, that was a good, smooth, open shot by DJ Augustine.
Inside to Beasley. Wameni caused him to almost lose it. And then here we go again with the little guard coming inside, pulling. Unlucky on that shot, and Augustine will come away with it.
You see, Wameni gives you the length that actually does. Who's now in foul trouble. His length has bothered Beasley.
Damian James could not get back to that one as Augustine got a little frustrated. And a check-in with Holly Rowe. Excuse me.
Well, guys, Beasley and Durant go way back. They were 11-year-old people on the same team together. And Michael Beasley told us today, he said, you know, back in the day, Kevin Durant was the scorer. He would have 30 points a game, and I would have 25, 30 rebounds a game. He said, I wasn't the scoring guy. But, you know, they talk often, 3 or 4 times a week or texting. They've been terrific friends through all these years. Like you said, he called him on yesterday, and he said, Kevin said, I ain't talking to you right now. I can't be your friend right now. Hopefully they'll be able to talk after the game, depending on the outcome.
Well, I'm sure they will, as you see Fatima Smith, his mom.
You know, for a guy that only spent 1 year on the 40 acres, Kevin Durant bleeds burnt orange. That much we know. Spent his all-star weekend with his ex-teammates at Baylor.
Walker lost the ball, stolen by Damian James.
Well, Walker and Gary Johnson banging a little bit. Bill Walker picked up a technical foul in the Nebraska game, Ron, and Frank Martin did not play him the last 9 minutes of that game down the stretch.
Okay. Bill Walker has not scored in this ball game so far tonight. Gary Johnson fouled by Walker, falling away with the jump shot. And let's check in with Carl Ravitch for SportsCenter 30 at 30.
Hi, Ron. Thank you very much. NASCAR 30 at 30 update starts in sunny California after that rain mess on Sunday. Today, Carl Edwards passed on the 13th lap to go, and he ends up backflipping his way to the checkered flag. And UConn beat LSU tonight. Maya Moore had 29 points. We've upgraded our women's hoop analysis. Stacey Dales will join Digger and I at the half to break that down. Digger will stick with the men. Ron, we'll see you at the break.
Okay, Carl, thanks so much. Our situation, we had 10:16 left to play in the opening half. Gary Johnson missed the first. He got the second, and that makes it a 5-point Longhorn lead.
It's one of those ways that Texas has become a better basketball team in Big 12 play. Johnson and Wangman giving Rick Barnes some bonus minutes.
On the inline, Sutton had possession of it or was trying to gain it, and it will be a turnover, and it goes back to the Longhorns.
DJ Augustine, Ron, 3 uncharacteristic turnovers early in this game, and I just felt early on he was pressing a little bit.
Working against Blake Young. Damian James. And that's going to be a hand check on Dominique Sutton. Moments ago, look at the head coach talking with Pullen on the bench.
Now, I like Frank Martin's demeanor. Known him a long time. There's some question about him getting the job. Maybe he didn't have the head coaching experience, but he sat down Pullen in the Missouri game on the road, and he sat down Bill Walker, and he has control of this basketball team.
Beasley for 3. Boy, I'll tell you what now, this is as unlucky as I have seen him in any one of the ball games. He's had several shots that looked like they were down, and they rattled in and then back out.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, when he misses, you're surprised.
Augustine for 3.
Very smooth. Now, that's twice he's come off ball screens and been left relatively open. He's got 10.
Pittman will come into the lineup, and Wanmani will go to the bench.
Well, DJ knows how to get out of a shooting slump. He was shooting around 22% over a 6-game stretch. With the last 2 games coming into tonight, 17 of 28.
Your observation's really good, though. Those shots, he is really, the last 2, he's really taken his time. And the rotation looks like it is where it is on those nights that he is in the 20s and scoring. Walker, too hard. Ball tipped around, and Pittman will take it away.
Well, it's funny because Rick Barnes said for a guy that's so good, he sometimes loses his confidence.
Augustine, and he's fouled. Mike Young.
Now, what he's done is he's put great pressure on this Kansas State defense because
tell us how.
He is mixing up the open shot with the ability to drive. So now he's got Blake Young completely baffled on how to guard him.
Team fouls. That's number 5 on K-State. And Frank Martin says, let's call a 30-second timeout. We'll be right back.
Well, DJ Augustine, if not the best point guard in the country, certainly in a discussion, certainly one of the top 2 or 3. And he has affected this game in a lot of different ways, starting with his defense, can knock down the long shot. And there's another one. Remember, he plays 39 minutes a game, Ron, in Big 12 play. So he doesn't really get a chance to take a break. And the coach on the floor for Rick Barnes.
And I was not surprised that on Saturday, when he had an opportunity and they had some distance between themselves and Oklahoma, that he only played him 35 minutes. And most people say that's a ton. But as you mentioned, this kid has been going the entire distance.
35 minutes is a vacation for him.
That's his 16th foul against Kansas State.
Well, just with a little rest, you can see the last 2 games and how he stepped up his game.
Damian James for 3. Beasley rebounds.
Now let's see how K-State can get Beasley back involved some.
Anderson had the ball, didn't realize he was not even being attended to by anybody defensively. And Curtis Shaw says that foul's going to be on number 5, Damian James. It's his first.
Ron, what I like about this now, Beasley has the ability to play away from the basket. Bill Walker, who can play away from the basket, is really at his best posting up. And they went to that little inverted offense, if you will.
Walker. Little switch off here. Gary Johnson against Walker. And Pittman blocked the ball, but the foul may have been on Johnson. On Saturday, it was a 2-man show between Beasley and Walker. Johnson just picked up his first foul. You see the numbers.
Well, the rest of that team went 3 for 18. So I think Scott Drew figured out that we'll let those two guys get their points. We'll shut everybody else down.
Walker, that's his first point, and it comes at the 8:04 mark of the opening half.
Well, last week in the 2 losses, Doc Sadler's Nebraska team held Beasley in check.
Anderson took it away. Beasley scores. 8 points for Beasley.
And you know what? It's a quiet 8. Because you get the feeling he can heat up and go for 10, 12 in a row.
Augustine. Mason for 3. That's way too hard. Pittman tries for the rebound, and Beasley comes away with another one.
Well, you can try for that rebound all you want, but if Mike Beasley is in that area, Ron, let me get over the rim effortlessly. See, you got too many guys in white shirts inside right now.
Stewart wouldn't go. Beasley rebounds, and he scores it. Johnson picks up his second foul. K-State coming back. 18-15 Longhorns.
IBM presents the 25 greatest players ever. Number 10, Wilt Chamberlain. He's an original. The 2-time All-American changed the face and height of college basketball. Kansas's Wilt Chamberlain averaged nearly 30 points and 18 rebounds for his career. IBM, getting it done.
Wilt Chamberlain in the pack now. We will count down the top 25 every night of college basketball and will announce the #1 player of all time during the North Carolina-Duke game, and that is on March the 8th. Not surprising to see the big guy from Kansas in the group.
Well, and if you think of him and you say, why did he only play 2 years? Freshmen weren't eligible back then. He left his senior year to go play for the Harlem Globetrotters.
At the line to shoot one for Kansas State, number 30, Michael Beasley.
So Beasley tries to make it a 3-point play as he goes to the line. And as we mentioned, Johnson with the foul. Johnson now with 2, Atchley with 2, and Abrams with 2 fouls as well.
I mentioned that 3 big man lineup. Now Gilbert comes back in. He can play on the perimeter a little bit. It was a little crowded in there to get Michael Beasley the ball. But he was able to pound the glass. Here's a 1-3-1 zone.
Manny with the screen out high. That's an air ball, and could Young save it? No, got it back to Pittman, and he'll reset it. Did not draw iron. Shot clock is down to 4, down to 3. James for 3 points, and he got it. Damian James.
That's that difference we talked about, Ron. That's why I call him a hybrid forward. Last year, he had to do all the dirty work. He's got 6, and he had to play power forward. Now he's got the ability to play both inside and out as Texas now goes to a little zone defense of their own.
Beasley. Ball is blocked by Juan Manny.
Well, right now, one of the things that's good about the zone, let's take a look here. That ball was on its way down. You've got a long front line to bother Beasley.
Pullen has to call a timeout as he gets trapped by James and Mason. Wednesday Judgment Week presented by Jockey continues on ESPN at 7 o'clock Eastern. The Kansas Jayhawks take on the Iowa State Cyclones. And at 9 Eastern, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets face the Duke Blue Devils. Wednesday Night Hoops presented by Staples.
Kansas now with 3 road losses in the Big 12, and kudos to Sean Sutton and his group, Ron. They have rebounded nicely. And kudos to Byron Eaton, who's playing as well right now.
No question about that.
As any player in the Big 12.
Couldn't agree with you more. Folks, we are looking at Beasley right here. And the guy, the young man has very large hands. We took the largest member of our crew, to put his hand up there with it. And, Fran, how would you describe that, Fran?
I look like a midget. And no offense to midgets, by the way, but...
look like a small person.
A small person, yes.
But the hand of Michael Beasley, very large, and he catches the ball extremely well. Quite an aid there. Young handles, gets it back over to Stewart.
And being 6'10" helps a little, too.
Shot clock is under 10. It's at 6. Gilbert back out on top. Over in the corner here is Stewart. Nice drive, a little too hard. And it comes back to DJ Augustine. Off in the wing, Mason was fouled.
Damian Mason did a terrific job here. Justin Mason, excuse me, at getting out in transition. But look at Augustine blow through 2 or 3 white shirts. And Mason with the opportunity now to shoot a couple.
That's the 7th team foul against Kansas State. 8 against the Longhorns. First point for Mason tonight.
Justin Mason, as we mentioned, came out of a great high school program in Amarillo, Paladuro High School.
So I think it's Dexter Pittman that he called, stepping into the lane too quickly, and the ball will go over to Kansas State.
Let's take a look at this now. Here's Pittman. See, Pittman's left foot is on the line. Little jockey in there by Beasley and Pittman.
Curtis Shaw just came over and put up 3 fingers and then 4 to say it was Pittman. Lob pass and the jam by Beasley.
Well, those big hands came in handy then.
13 points for Beasley.
And I mentioned earlier, quietly, Ron, you always get the sense with Beasley that he can go off quickly.
Bud Stewart now working against Augustine. About to go under 5 minutes left in the first half. And Walker just picked up a foul as Juan Maney almost got run into the scorer's table there.
Let me tell you what's happened here. Curtis Shaw, there may not be a better official in the country. There's certainly not 5 better. And he understands Bill Walker's history throughout the Big 12. Now take a look right here. Watch what happens. There's the push. Okay? Here comes Curtis Shaw out of your screen. He watches the whole thing. And that's just another. And Frank Martin is saying, why? Why are you doing that?
He's not fussing at Curtis Shaw. He's talking to his own player.
Because really, Bill, that's his second foul. So he hurts the team. And if you just go back to last Wednesday when Frank Martin benched him for a technical foul and his 4th personal foul, he hurts the team by doing that.
Brown, air ball. Well, that's a little surprising. Fred Brown is a good player, cold off the bench. It hasn't come close to lathering up, but he puts up a really tough 3. Pass inside to Chapman, and he couldn't hold on.
Now, I don't know about you, Ron, but if I were at Kansas State, and there's a great look by Clint Stewart, I would make sure Michael Beasley touches the ball.
Every time.
Every time, because he's not a ball hog. He actually has a great IQ.
Tell you what else they're doing? Clint Stewart, to me, is the settling and guiding force for K-State.
Yes.
Anderson.
I mean, that shot has no chance right there, unfortunately.
Lob pass on the way to the hoop. Damian James scores it, and he'll get an opportunity to make it 3 points.
We saw this early with Atchley. We've seen Mason get out. And the one thing Texas has done tonight, other than Augustine's jump shots, they have done a terrific job of running the floor. And that's a great catch and finish.
Stewart picks up his 2nd foul. You might remember we talked a lot about Clint as he's going to go to the bench. He lost his mom, who had a long, long battle with cancer about 3 weeks ago. And his dad is here. In fact, his dad was at practice, the shoot-around today. Really nice gentlemen. And they are handling this situation extremely well. But they've been through a lot. The team went down to Norman for the wake. And then he flew back up with his dad, as you look at a picture of Vanessa.
Yep.
He came back up, the day of his mom's funeral because his dad said he thought that the healing process would begin quicker and better if he shared it with his family away from home, his basketball family. And there is Pullen knocking down the long three.
Well, I want to finish up what you said, Ron, because we saw Vanessa so many times come to games, making that 4-hour trip from Tulsa.
So we'll let you finish that thought when we come back. 25-21 Longhorns. We'll be right back. So back here in Manhattan, 25-21, Texas leading by 4 over Kansas State. And we talked about what an intelligent player Beasley is.
Well, and Frank Martin has said many times that Michael Beasley is not a ball hog. Keep your eye on this now. 4 orange shirts. What does he do? He recognizes it, kicks it out. By the way, he passed it with his right hand. He's ambidextrous. And Pullen gets an open shot. The ball must go through Michael Beasley.
Bill Walker's off the bench and back into the ball game.
Well, he's got 2 fouls, so he's got to be a little careful here. Texas stays in that zone. Rick Barnes, as you know, Ron, has no problem playing a lot of 2-3 zone.
You know, Texas Tech used it effectively in that game out in Lubbock. That ball is stolen on a pass. Well, not stolen yet. It looks like it's going to be a held ball. Still loose, and Mason rolled it back up the sidelines, and then it goes out of bounds. And the K-State people standing and applauding Mason for his stick-to-itiveness on the play.
Well, how many good teams have a Justin Mason on their squad?
Not enough.
Not enough. Doesn't care about points. He's a good defender. He's a good garbage man.
So K-State gets a fresh 35 seconds. We're about to go under 3 minutes to play in this opening half. Inside Beasley, and the ball is blocked by Wanmani, but Chapman has picked up the foul. And Clint Stewart on the bench, and you were closing up your thoughts about.
Well, we saw Vanessa a number of times, and you know the thing about Clint Stewart, Union High School will be there for the Summit League Championship. He could have gone to Stanford. He's a very high IQ kid. Great kid, always has a smile on his face. I know it was very painful, but Ron, this community, Manhattan, has really embraced him. And you see the VS on the shirt, and had a big smile for us tonight when we saw him when he came out on the court. And these are what college basketball is all about. Guys like Clint Stewart.
Holly, you got more on this.
Well, guys, imagine how hard that would be. He was with his mom the night that she passed away, and his father told me that it was a very difficult night of grieving. But at some point during that evening, Clint says he had a dream. His mom came to him and said, son, it's time to spread your wings and fly. Guys, it's really helped him to get through this process and know that it's okay to rejoin his team with his mother's blessing.
Okay, Holly. Well, this crowd is up, really trying to help and be the 6th person. Wanmani gets the rebound, but a whistle and a foul against K-State inside by Curtis Shaw. Well, Judgment Week presented by Jockey continues tomorrow on ESPN. 7 Eastern, Ohio State goes up against Indiana. And then at 9 Eastern, it's Tennessee, now number 1, taking on Vanderbilt. That game is in Nashville. And that's not a gimme in Nashville, trust me.
They expended a lot of energy Saturday night.
Yeah, and trust me, Vandy will be sitting there licking their chops.
You know, the thing that I've enjoyed about Tennessee all year is, Ron, is their relentlessness, you know, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can come with that same relentlessness psychologically. I have a feeling they can, but you're right. Always a tough place to play, Memorial Gym.
You know, an official told me one time, and I don't know if this is documented or not, but because of the construction of the arena with the team sitting at either end rather than on the side, he said there are more technicals have been called in that building than any building in America because the coaches get frustrated. They're so far away from the action at one end. Chapman tips the ball, but stolen by Pullen behind the back, and Beasley misses the dunk.
The length of Texas has done a good job of bothering Michael Beasley tonight.
Damian James, and he was forced out of bounds.
Well, Michael Beasley, now he gets away with a travel here. You see the shuffle of the feet, but here comes Chapman. And Wangmany, Chapman, actually Pittman, all big bodies that Rick Barnes has been able to throw at Michael Beasley tonight. And they've only held him to 15 points in the first half.
10 team fouls now on K-State, but the Longhorns cannot make free throws. Both teams have put the other team in the double bonus.
Well, I mentioned last week, Ron, that Doc Sadler played a box-and-1 on Michael Beasley. He held him to 17 and 10. And then Scott Drew's philosophy, obviously, was to outscore Michael Beasley, and almost didn't get away with it. But they have a terrific offensive group at Baylor.
Beasley strong to the hoop. The ball blocked by Wangmany, and they're going to call goaltending.
Now, if you think that Beasley shot the ball with his right hand, he did. We mentioned that he's ambidextrous. He does everything but shoot a ball with his right hand, and he can do it both.
But what he told us, he actually is right-handed.
Yeah.
And he just started doing things with his left. 1-point ball game. Texas leading. 2:10 remaining in this opening half. Augustine off the mark. The ball tipped up. Shoveled ahead to Pullen, and he will get the easy layup. And Rick Barnes will call a timeout as K-State takes their first lead of the night.
Because A.J. Abrams is out, 2 fouls, DJ Augustine has got to be more involved in the offense. And when he falls down, there's nobody to get back in transition. Pullen leaks out, gets the easy 2.
Well, let's take a look at the timeline here in Manhattan, Kansas at K-State. Bob Huggins named the coach March 23rd, 2006. And then Cats missed the cut with 22 wins. That's on March the 11th. April the 5th, Huggins leaves for West Virginia. Then on April the 6th, Frank Martin is promoted to head coach. He was the #1 assistant prior to that. And on January the 30th, the Wildcats topped the Jayhawks. First time in 24 years. 2 years at Ahern, and then the other 22 here at Bramlage Coliseum. They had never beaten Kansas in this building since it was built. But they changed that this year.
And Michael Beasley had a quiet 25 that night. Now Kansas State shows a little 3-2 zone here. And remember, the only outside shooter is DJ Augustine on the floor.
Really smart time to go to the zone, right?
Yep. And Rick Barnes counters by putting Mason out top at the point.
Augustine dishes it off, and Wangmany will make the catch and score it.
Well, one way you attack the zone, if you have somebody good enough that can get into the heart of it, that time off the dribble by Augustine, you cut the zones hard out.
Stolen, and Augustine will lay it in.
How about him, Ron? He just controls the game so many different ways.
Dozen points. Wangmany with the rebound. Crowd wanted a foul on Augustine. Damian James, don't know his exact numbers right now, but he is not what you would call on this evening. As the ball tipped in the air, it's going to be saved by Anderson of Kansas State.
And you get the feeling that James has to be aggressive because of Abrams' 2 fouls, and now Kansas State will hold for 1.
No shot clock. The game clock is now at 17. But zone comes out even further. 6 seconds in the corner. This is Brown. Got it. 3-pointer. We're tied. Heading to halftime. Mason with a desperation shot. Will not get there. Tie ball game. 30-30. And the Star Watch has delivered as far as the two people we started off taking a look at tonight. Augustine, 12 points, 50% from the field, and Michael Beasley, 17 points. And what is not mentioned on there is 10 rebounds. He already has a double-double. And let's go down to Holly Rowe. Holly?
Coach Frank Martin, when one of your last timeouts, you told your team, you're right in this, don't lose your heads. What do you like about their composure here in the first half?
I'm happy with how we're playing. We're back to defending, which is what we've done all year. We're rebounding. We've missed some shots that we've been making all year, so we just got to stay the course.
Beasley has his points, but very few other guys have scored. How did the other guys get into this?
That's all right. We've been missing easy shots. We just got to keep taking the shots we've taken.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Holly. Tied at 30 at halftime. Now let's join Carl Ravitch, Digger Phelps, and Stacey Dales with the UPS halftime.
Give it all or nothing, you know how we coming. Get out our way, better clear the lane. With joy campaign, this not just a game. Got so much more to gain. Push it, push it, push it. Give it all or nothing, you know how we coming. Get out our way, better clear the lane. With joy campaign, this not just a game. Got so much more to gain. Push it, push it, push it.
Welcome back to Big Monday, presented by Bud Light. All a part of Judgment Week, presented by Jockey. We're at Bramlage Coliseum in Manhattan, Kansas, and the halftime score is the visitors from Austin 30 and the homestanding K-State Wildcats 30. Fran Fraschilla, I don't think anybody's disappointed. Now, Texas did have three guys, particularly two of their regulars, who had to spend a lot of time on the bench with foul problems.
You're right, Ron. And you know, for me, Rick Barnes gets out of the first half with those guys on the bench, and he's still in his ball game because Michael Beasley can dominate this game.
Take us through the two All-Americans and the job they did in the first half.
Well, both of these guys are potentially first-team All-Americans. Obviously, Beasley and Augustine are. With A.J. Abrams in foul trouble, Augustine has given Rick Barnes a lift offensively. And this guy, Beasley, fifth time already this year, a double-double in a half. And he gets it on his own.
The amazing thing is, it's the fifth time in a half, the fourth time in the first half, 19 straight free throws, and he's 34 of 36 in his last 4 games from the free throw line. And in fact, that's one of the things that the Longhorns must shore up in the second half if they're going to win on the road. They're only 4 of 9 from the stripe.
Well, it's interesting, Ron. That's the 8th turnover for Texas. And in Big 12 play, they are only averaging just under 9.
In Holly, you've got more on that.
Well, I asked Rick Barnes at the half what he said to his team. He said, hey, these are stupid turnovers. They're getting them for no reason. We're just making mistakes. He also told his team they're too amped up on offense. They just need to settle it down. Got to be frustrated. Their first play out of the gate after that speech. Turn it over again on another stupid play.
Well, and how about this, Ron? A little box and one on Michael Beasley to start the second half. Justin Mason getting the assignment.
Stepped on the sideline, so a turnover for each team to open the second half. Here is the stat sheet. And Augustine, 12 points, 5 of 10. Beasley, 17 points, 10 rebounds. 24th double-double of the season.
And that is already a freshman NCAA record. Carmelo Anthony with 23. And he's one away from a Big 12 record held by Drew Gooden of Kansas. Let's see if Rick Barnes can get A.J. Abrams involved in this offense early.
Augustine falling away. That's one of his favorite shots, either to the side or straight away, and he scores it to break the tie.
See, they stay in that box and one. Mason is guarding Beasley. Now, Nebraska did this last Wednesday night in Lincoln, and it really affected the outcome of that game.
And right there on that play, talk about this, Fran, it also at times precludes him from being a part of a rebounder, and that's what he leads the nation in.
Well, that's right, because Mason only has to do one thing, keep him from getting the ball.
Let's go on Kansas State's Michael Beasley. That's his first personal, second personal foul. And the first team.
Beasley picks up the foul. It's his second. And you see Frank up immediately. And Frank Martin, what are you signaling? He wants a switch. Shut off the out-of-bounds play, but it's going to come down to Damian James.
See, James should have went right at
Should have
Beasley's
gone
body.
straight at him. You're right.
And
should have gone right at him.
And what you have to do right there, he had the angle on Beasley. If you're even with him, you are leaving him. And see, it's hard to tell here, but he needed to go right into Beasley's body and freeze him, either to get the shot off or to try to pick up that third foul.
And you know Michael would back off of him a little bit. He certainly doesn't want 3 fouls this early into the second half, only 2 minutes in.
Absolutely right, Ron. We know he's a high IQ guy. Okay, now, Kansas State is 0 for 3 in the box and 1. So far, so good.
And Augustine will drive the middle. Got no help defensively, and that's 16 points for DJ Augustine.
Well, you made a great point, Ron, about no help because they're face guarding Abrams, and that opens up the floor for Augustine.
Three-pointer, got it. The new man in the lineup, Andre Gilbert. First points for him of the night.
Frank Martin has gone to a 3-guard offense this year, and sometimes he's used Gilbert as that small forward.
Ball will stay with Kansas State.
Checking in for Kansas State, number 0,
And let's see right now if Texas will stay in that box and 1 on the inbounds. That's a little bit harder to do.
Pulling into the lineup, and Stewart will go to the bench for Kansas State. 1-point lead, Texas Longhorns. Got a good one, and we thought it would be. Quick pass into Beasley, and he's going to get his own follow, but there was a whistle and a foul before the follow shot.
Well, you mentioned open space, Ron. Keep your eye now. Look how Abrams is being defended in the corner. That means the defender will not leave him, and that opens up the driving lane for Augustine. Good execution right there. Put your driver on the same side as your best shooter.
Beasley scores. The foul was on Ashley, and he is having to go back to the bench already, and we are just 3 minutes and 9 seconds into the second half. Connor with only 2 points in the ball game tonight.
How about this guy? That's 20 in a row now, right? Going back 3 games. 21.
21, actually.
21,
yeah.
wow. All right, now Mason is going to play the point, and that'll free Augustine up a little bit to be more offensive-minded.
Deep in the corner, in and out, not there. The tip, Walker, and it's going to stay with Texas. And Gary Johnson got banged on the nose, even though he is wearing that protective mask, and now he's checking for blood, and he has gone to the bench on his own. Gary Johnson, who got his nose broken, is now being attended to by Fred Burnett, the basketball trainer. But he went straight to the bench. You could tell he's been banged on it. And when you start bleeding, you got to get off the floor.
What was it, the Texas A&M game where he tried to play without the mask?
Yes, and got hit once more after he had been banged on it in the first half.
That's a tough play. Good defense.
Boy, turnovers in this ball game, most on Texas-like. And now the largest lead in the ball game for K-State at 3.
Well, Michael Beasley gets points so effortlessly.
Abrams still with no points in the ball game.
See, James is allowed to dribble that.
Augustine hanging, not there. He knocked the ball out of bounds. It'll go to K-State. Timeout. When we come back, Kevin Durant on the phone to talk about this ball game as the Wildcats have forged on top by 3. And we're back in Manhattan. It is Kansas State 37-34, largest lead of the night. Here is a poll being conducted by ESPN.com. Who is the most impressive freshman this decade? Carmelo Anthony is leading right now with 71,000 votes tallied. Next is Kevin Durant, and number 3 is Michael Beasley. Number 2 on this list is on the phone with me right now. Kevin, Ron Franklin, along with friend Frischella, and it's great to have you along. What are your impressions of this ball game so far?
Well, it's a big-time ball game. Both teams are playing very hard, playing very well right now, and it's gonna be a tough game today.
We talked with Michael Beasley this afternoon, and he said that you guys normally converse on the phone, but he said this week, he just said to you, this week we can't be friends. Is that right?
And I talked to him yesterday. We had some friendly words, and I told him what I think he should do. Even though he's playing against my old team, he's still a good friend. But it's gonna be a good game, for both teams. He scores with such lead. Hopefully pull this one out.
Hey, Kevin, take us back to Seat Pleasant Rec Center in Maryland when you guys were 11 years old. Talk about the two of you playing together.
It was a fun. He makes the game fun for everybody on our team. He was just starting off playing. All he would do was get rebounds. I know he's been through a great rebounder. One game he had, as an 11-year-old, he had 20 rebounds. So it was great to play with him. He started dunking at 12, and from there I knew he was just going to a great player.
Kevin, you can see right now it's just up and down, up and down. All of a sudden, both teams have reached their stride, and I guess none of us are surprised by this. Are you surprised? Are you right on with what Beasley has done? Because he has been simply amazing in a lot of different categories already.
He's playing very well. He can do just about everything on the floor. He gets rebounds, he scores with ease, he transitions. He does everything an NBA player does. He's a great freak to shoot the basketball, passes. He's very unselfish, and he's doing everything he can for this team. He's the main focal of this team, and guys are trying to stop him every night, but they're not succeeding. So it's nothing new to me. A lot of people in this country, it's new to them, but to me, I knew he was going to do this.
Hey, Kevin, I know how much you enjoyed your time in Austin. Could you have envisioned that a year after you left that this team was number 5 in the country? And if so, why?
I had a feeling it would be very good, but not this good this early. Guys are just growing up. We've been through a lot last year as a team, going in the Big 12 conference championship. Playing in tough arenas. Losing games, just learning. And guys coming back, everybody's back except for me and the senior Craig Winder. But they're playing very well. Coach got to play defense at another level. DJ is playing unbelievably. Damian James. So everybody on that team is playing well, and I knew they were going to be good this year.
Kevin, thank you so much for visiting with us. Good luck to you. You got Golden State tomorrow night, but good luck the rest of the year. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. And we're back. Kansas State with a 5-point lead, and the officials did not think Wanmeni was in the act of shooting when he was fouled. On the inbounds pass, Mason will bring it back out and reset it.
Good, solid half-court defense by Kansas State. 11 turnovers for Texas.
Damian James not there. Wanmeni with the rebound and takes it back up and scores strong.
I think that's a good example right there, Ron, of Beasley not wanting to pick up that third foul.
I think you're right.
Yep, but at some point down the stretch of this game, you can't worry about that.
Gilbert strong to the hoop. And he was fouled.
Now it's number 3. Texas A.&T Abrams. That's his third personal foul.
That's Abrams. It's his third. And let's check in with Holly Rowe.
Well, guys, right now, Texas big man Gary Johnson is on the bench. He's already playing with a broken nose in 2 places. Right now, they're just trying to stop the bleeding, but I can tell you he's in a lot of pain. He's literally had tears running down his face, his eyes welling up from the pain of getting hit in that broken nose. He's on the bench for now, guys. And it's very critical because with Connor Ashley on the bench with fouls, now Johnson on the bench with this, as you see the whack across the bridge of that broken nose. Alex Wanmeni probably playing his best game we've seen him this year, guys, but they're sorely lacking for some big bodies, and that's why you see Connor Ashley just checking back in.
Okay, Holly, Wanmeni will come to the bench. That was Walker who spanked him across the nose, and Gary Johnson, I don't know if he'll be able to be back tonight or not, because that is the reaction on a broken nose. You'll cry for a long time.
Well, I know if you've got foul trouble and you've got some guys injured, if I were Kansas State, I would go inside. That foul was on the floor, Ron.
Yeah, it's on Stewart, and that's his third.
Checking in now for Kansas State, number 23.
Gilbert will go to the bench, and coming in, Fred Brown, number 1, the freshman out of West Palm Beach.
Tell you what I like that Frank Martin has done. A.J. Abrams has really been shadowed well tonight, except for right there.
Sutton tried to cut it off, but Abrams, who just picked up his third foul, that's his 347th career three. That surpasses Travis Mays for the most all-time at Texas.
One thing you do with a shooter is you never allow your body to leave his, and that's what Sutton did on that last possession.
Pulling it inside, Beasley left alone. 25 points now.
Bowen must be a pass-first point guard for Kansas State to play to its potential. Good example right there.
3-point lead, Kansas State. Just under 13 minutes to play.
Great
Augustine
defense.
loses it, and it goes back to K-State.
Kansas State has played great half-court defense.
12 turnovers against the Longhorns. Fred Brown, boy, that's way off the mark. And again, that's when somebody's got to whisper and say, hey, fellas, well, it starts with number 30, and if you come down somewhere in the counting, then it's you. Abrams, back-to-back threes.
Well, just when I mentioned that Kansas State had done a great job of guarding A.J. Abrams, he's gotten loose twice.
Tie ball game at 47. And he got his first one, in the second half.
Texas goes back to that zone. Got to figure out a way to get Beasley touches now.
Bill Walker decided he wanted to shoot. Mason lost the ball, got it back to James.
See, James can dribble that. It's only a fumble.
Abrams, no. Actually hustles for the ball, and it'll be a fresh 35.
Oh, no. Now, Ron,
Ashley.
That basket happened because they tried to steal it from Abrams. You're not going to leave him open at the three-point line. You got to guard him, and that allows him to kick it to Ashley.
Well, the three-pointers have been raining here in the second half for the Longhorns. They are back on top in the ball game by 3, 50-47.
The Kansas State staff told us before the game that A.J. Abrams never makes a mistake in terms of his decisions. You wouldn't get that from a guy that's so offensive-minded.
Pulling for three. Got it. Tied again, this time at 50. What this reminds me of? Saturday, we were in Indianapolis for Butler and Drake.
We had some three-point shooters in that game.
13 points for Pullen. In fact, that game was tied at 50 at a time. Too hard, taken down by Abrams. Augustine left alone, but he misses, and Beasley skies for the rebound.
Now, the last 3 or 4 shots by Kansas State have come from behind the arc. Texas has now gone. Let's see it. You've got to get the ball to Beasley.
Pullen, ball fake, lob, Beasley couldn't get it, and it looks as though James will be called for the foul. We'll take a timeout. 10-17 remaining. Texas 50, Kansas State 50.
Follows the game.
Okay, Carl, thanks so much. Our situation, 10-17 remaining to be played, and we are tied at 50. And Gary Johnson, surprisingly, has got that mask back on and is back on the floor.
He's going to need to borrow a helmet from Mac Brown the way he gets banged around.
I can tell you. As you look at Beasley on the bench, you're trying to steal a couple of minutes here so he can get a breather. Pulling it. Banged by Augustine. And let's go inside the play, Fran.
Well, we mentioned this earlier. When you guard A.J. Abrams, you can allow no separation. Now watch Sutton right here guarding Abrams. It's an inbounds play. You must chase him, freeze it, okay, off the screen, not under the screen. When you go under the screen, you allow separation.
Walker on the follow, not there. The other follow won't go. On the floor, K-State comes away with it. It was Young.
I do like the fact that Kansas State is attacking the inside of the zone.
These kids are playing hard. They're going on the floor, regardless of where it is.
And right now, Michael Beasley's had about a 3.5-minute break, real time, and has only missed about a minute of running time.
Brown for three. Connor Atchley gets the rebound for Texas.
Texas right now. Let's see if you can get A.J. Abrams open again.
Pulls up for two. In and out. Tipped by Atchley.
That's a heck of a play by Atchley. Knocked over Gary Johnson.
The other end, it got numbers. And a whistle and a foul against Texas.
What a tip by Connor Atchley. Young man who only averaged about 2 points a game as a freshman. He's a fourth-year junior, averaging at about 10 and 5, 2 blocks. And for all the All-Americans that Rick Barnes has recruited to the 40 acres, it's been guys like Atchley, Royale, Ivy, Justin Mason that really fill in the roster nicely.
No, you set me up perfectly. It was Mason who picked up the foul, his second, as Beasley continues to get a breather on the bench. Atchley, says the coaching staff, probably it's been a long time since they have had anybody who worked as hard on his shooting as Connor has, and it's paid dividends.
There you see unusual numbers for Bill Walker.
Gilbert just picked up a foul away from the play. It's his second. So Walker having a miserable night.
Not very often, Ron, that Beasley and Walker sit at the same time.
Well, you're right. We'll see if Texas is able to take advantage as Augustine will take it on to the hoop and knocks down the runner.
Augustine practices those shots.
18, Brent.
Yep, very good. Said it many times. If you're a small guard, you must have that ability to shoot that runner before the shot blocker comes into play.
Ball taken away by Augustine. This is 3 times tonight, and he will take it in and score.
Now, that was an excellent play. One of the things that DJ Augustine did during his slump is he tried to avoid contact. Watch the steal. Okay? Now, he's going to take it right at Pullen. Watch him jump in. Pullen has nothing to do except jump out of the way. Takes it, tries to take it to his body, and then hangs in the air.
Well, Judgment Week, presented by Jockey, continues tomorrow on ESPN, 7 Eastern. Ohio State will face off against Eric Gordon and the Hoosiers of Indiana. Then at 9 o'clock, let's go down to the SEC. The top-ranked Tennessee Volunteers will take on the Vanderbilt Commodores. Super Tuesday, presented by KFC on ESPN.
Of course, we were in Indianapolis over the weekend, so we were a part of that soap opera down at IU, and those kids had a lot of guts to come back and win that game at Northwestern.
That was a really hard-fought contest.
Yep.
It was. And let me say this, for people that did not get to see the game that we did in the bracket buster between Drake and Butler, 2 really outstanding teams, very smart, very mature, and extremely well coached, both of them.
Oh, I would agree with you. Both guys are going to get consideration for National Coach of the Year. Keno Davis at Drake and Brad Stevens, the coach at Butler, who's done a great job in his first season.
That's now 21 points for Augustine.
Well, in my mind, you have 2 first-team All-Americans on the floor, one at the point, and then Beasley along with Kevin Love and Tyler Hansbrough. You can put him anywhere.
Young, nice drive along the baseline, and he scores it. This is now a 13-5 run by Texas. First 2 points by Young tonight.
I think a key down the stretch for Kansas State is Can you get Beasley the ball regardless of what defense Texas is in? And can you slow down DJ Augustine?
Gary Johnson takes it in front, dishes it to Wanmani, and he's going to be called for steps. Let's take a timeout. 7:46 remaining. 57-52 Longhorns.
Hey, 15 minutes from now, look familiar? Similar shot. Luke Sikma, the son of Jack Sikma. He gets set as his team will take on Gonzaga, unranked, trying to get back into the top 25. It's next.
Well, the score 57-52. The Texas Longhorns on top. Just under 8 minutes to play. And tonight's Tournament Resume brought to you by CareerBuilders.com.
At this time of year, Ron, I'm always reluctant to say who's on the bubble and who's off the bubble. Obviously, Kansas State, there's some positives there. Wins over teams that are likely in the NCAA tournament. Good strength of schedule, but last year they won 22 games on Selection Sunday and 10-6 in the Big 12 and did not get in. So if I'm Frank Martin, I'm looking at this game as a critical one.
Extremely critical because their next one, not only is this tough, they got to go to Lawrence this weekend. Three-pointer on the way, and that one was well off.
Now, this is why I got out of coaching, okay? Because Michael Beasley has 3 shot attempts in the second half. And you can't have that. Frank Martin doesn't want that. And I don't care how many threes you've made in the second half, which hasn't been many. Ball must go inside.
Augustine, not there, rebounded by Beasley.
Beasley needs to run the floor and grab a miss because right now that's the only way he's touching it.
Beasley for 3. Nope. Whistle and a foul. That's Young, and that's going to be number 4 on him.
And see, I mentioned the 3 attempts, Ron. Now, he shoots 40% or thereabouts from 3. But his game is inside, so he hasn't touched it in a while. And what does he do? He shoots a 3 when he really should be pounding the glass and going inside. Not his fault.
Well, and you can see the look on his face as he came down the floor. Had a chance to walk. They had a little bit of a stoppage in action, but the kid's frustrated right now. Gary Johnson faced up to the basket. Going to be rebounded again by Beasley.
Now, what I would do right now, they're in a zone. And the reason they're in zone is to slow down Beasley. You must have a zone offense that gets it inside.
Mason gets the block on Walker.
See, Walker's 6'5", going against length. And as strong as he is, Texas is a pretty physical front line.
Abrams, the runner, not there. Tip inside, and again taken down by Beasley.
Now, if I were Beasley, I would play point guard and bring it up the floor. Now, Rick Barnes and Curtis Shaw have gone back and forth for a couple minutes. They know each other for a long time, but Curtis Shaw will not take anything.
But I'm still trying to. The call on the play was what?
I think they just subbed for an injured player. Gary Johnson came out.
Okay. Because we saw nobody went to the scorer's table with a foul. Walker. Blocked again. He tries to save it out of bounds, and he will not.
Now, see, that Beasley is the guy that should be posting up. You see, Walker has a tendency to lose his temper. Now, watch. Let's see. Now, he throws the ball off of James, but he's trying to score over a length. He's 6'5". Post Beasley.
Lob inside to Beasley. Hop step. That one is blocked as well. And a whistle and a foul. I think that's going to be called on Mason.
It's much better if you post Michael Beasley on the low block.
3rd foul on Mason. And in team fouls, each team about to put the other into the bonus. 6 each.
Good coaching adjustment by Frank Martin that time. You see what Michael Beasley has accomplished in his brief career. I always felt, Ron, when a team zoned you, they zoned you for a number of reasons. They thought they couldn't handle you inside, or they thought you were a poor shooting team, or they wanted to change up their defense. when they play zone, because they don't think you can handle inside, you must have a zone offense that gets the ball inside.
Number 40, Ron Anderson.
Anderson will check back into the lineup. The freshman out of Upper Marlboro, Maryland, playing more minutes as the season has gone on.
Of course, he's the son of Ron Anderson, who played in the NBA for many years.
10 years.
State, yep.
You're right. His dad played for 10 years in the NBA.
And an AAU teammate of Michael Beasley's on the DC Assault program.
Damian James, the two-pointer, short. Ashley with the follow, and he'll score.
You know what that did? Even though it was a poor shot by James, it took Michael Beasley away from the basket.
Ashley got away with a reach in there. Pass hard to Anderson. Ashley is there, misses the shot, and Ashley will come away with the rebound.
I'm impressed with how much Connor Ashley has improved.
Well, they go for the steal, they miss it, and they pay because Abrams knocks down another three.
Second time tonight, Kansas State has gambled, and when they gamble and lose, Texas plays 4-on-5 versus Kansas State, and A.J. Abrams is open.
So Texas with an 8-point lead, the largest of the night. Abrams makes it his 12th point of the evening. Well, Wednesday Judgment Week presented by Jockey continues on ESPN. At 7 Eastern, the Kansas Jayhawks take on the Iowa State Cyclones. Then at 9 Eastern, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets face the Duke Blue Devils. Wednesday Night Hoops presented by Staples.
Take a look at this, Ron. Watch the gamble now. Once we gamble and miss, guess what? It's now 5-on-4 for Texas. Ball reversal, and the one guy you do not leave open is A.J. Abrams. And I think Frank Martin is saying that in so many words.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Pretty succinct.
Yes, pretty succinct.
62-54. We talk about there's no panic time with this many games left on the slate. However, you got to win your games at home. That goes without saying.
Yes.
As tough as this league has gotten, that's true in every league. But in the Big 12 now, for sure, you can't drop one at home, and you certainly can't drop two.
Well, let's flip it around. If Texas wins on the road again, with the wins they have in the league, you have to start thinking about them as a potential number 1 seed. Now, I believe if Kansas wins out and Texas wins out, that if either wins the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City,
be that team.
That'll be the number 1 seed. But a lot of basketball left, but Texas is putting themselves in the driver's seat with the win here.
Back to that zone. Chipped in the middle. It was Abrams who got a hand on it. And then a whistle and a foul on Stewart. That's 4 fouls on Stewart. What a second half for Abrams.
You remember Abrams was hampered with foul trouble in the first half, and all he's done is heat up. And we have mentioned this many times, Ron, as Abrams shoots the 1-and-1. But so many times in Rick Barnes' tenure at Texas have they gone to the 2-3 zone, not as a changeup, but as a weapon. So it's like having a fastball and then also having a wicked slider.
It's a good point. Abrams, and he missed it. And he had a series to go all the way back to the Baylor game, but then against Texas A&M was almost perfect. It was this weekend as well.
So you got to swing the ball to Beasley's side and let him post up one-on-one on Ashley.
Walker, not there. Inside Anderson. Ashley got the ball, but he also is going to be called for the foul. The interesting thing is the man outside is the one who made the call rather than the official on the baseline.
Well, Ashley definitely swung down, but from where we are, because we're in the opposite end zone, let's see. Now, he swings down on it. Does he get bodied? It does look like he gets
yeah, it does.
hit the wrist. But we're so far away, it's a little tricky to see that. But
4 on him.
Yep, and that's important because he has been a defensive anchor for Rick Barnes over this 7-game stretch where they've really tightened up. This is where Texas has improved over those 7 games, Ron. The ability to come back with Wangmaney, Pittman, Johnson, and even Chapman.
Okay, one thing they have not done well tonight, though, is Anderson bends the knees. He gets the second free throw. The Longhorns were only 5 of 11 from the free throw line. And what a Augustine missed a minute ago was the front end of a 1-and-1.
Yes. See, this is where Augustine has been at his best this year.
Ball will stay with the Longhorns. 21 seconds on the shot clock. Let's take a break.
The Dunkin' Donuts dunk of the night. Digger Phelps' favorite segment here off the Fisher miss. Dwayne Anderson is there for the flush. Villanova flexing its muscles then, but Marquette went on to win. Don't forget, just a couple minutes from now, Gonzaga starts on ESPN2.
So our score is 62-56, the Texas Longhorns. And a reminder, this telecast is available on ESPN HD, presented by Oledia, live and in color. Ron Franklin, Fran Fraschilla, and Holly Rowe coming to you from a jam-packed Manhattan, Kansas. Kevin McHale. There are 15 scouts tonight. There you look at Mr. Kerr. Steve, the Vice President of Basketball Operations for the Phoenix Suns.
We had a nice chat with him before the game.
Before the ball game. 15 scouts and 3 GMs here tonight to look over the talent. And I don't think they've been really disappointed, do you?
No, not at all. Especially coming to see 2 guys I think are first-team All-Americans.
Augustine dishes to Johnson, and he scores it easily.
Now, what's important about that? Texas is 21-1 when they have the lead at the 4-minute mark of the game because they have the Mariano Rivera of college basketball, DJ Augustine, handling the basketball.
Brown back over to Pullen. He's open, and he got it.
All this Beasley's not going to touch the ball. Kansas State is now to make some threes. And remember, against Kansas, they made a whole bunch of threes.
Screen on Pullen.
See Augustine, Ron, he knows if he's being guarded within 5 feet, he's going to back up, create space.
Well, he jumped up and into him, and they're going to give him 1-and-1. He was inside the 3-point line.
Well, this is why he's so smart. He's a high IQ point guard. Take a look. Ball fake. And you know something? I think the defender was in perfect position. These guys have done a good job tonight. I think they missed that one. It also tells you that All-Americans sometimes get a break here or
there. Makes the first one. And somebody has thrown, well, there's some pictures of Beasley that have been distributed tonight, and somebody threw one on the court. Anderson has to go to the bench. He has 2 fouls.
And he rightfully should be upset.
Augustine brings it back to a 7-point ball game.
Now under the 4-minute mark, we're already seen an assist for a basket from Augustine and 2 made free throws.
Beasley inside over Atchley, not there, rebounded by Gary Johnson.
And that's where Connor Atchley is so important and so underrated defensively.
You see what Rick Barnes is signaling. Use a full clock if you can.
And they've got a great point guard to do it. See, and he's just going to take his time and use the shot clock.
Atchley strong to the hoop and scores it.
Now, that sky hook he works on every day. We see practice. That looked like Dr. J, but that was Connor Atchley.
11 points for Atchley. 9-point ball game.
Texas State, they're going to give up some threes.
Beasley, point-blank range. I can't believe that wouldn't go. Well, he got the open look. He just simply couldn't get it to go down.
The execution was good.
Jacob Pullen. Well, the bad thing about this, and you explained it. Well, go ahead.
Well, watch, Ron. See the shot clock at 6? He knows the shot clock. So he gets into the paint. He draws the defender. and Gary Johnson gets 2. So it's a bonus. They not only use 35 seconds, but they get 2 points as well.
Augustine misses. The ball tipped up in the air was 1-1. That's 2 front ends that he has missed in the last 2 minutes. Deep 3, not there. Ashley comes away with a rebound.
Well, those threes, as we've said all night, that's called fool's gold. Make a couple, you get excited, so you shoot some more. But that's not their game.
About to go under 1 minute to play. Texas 68-59. Abrams. And if you ask Rick Barnes, he might say, this man along with Ashley got to come off the bench and have really been saviors. Abrams with, 12 points in the second half. Ashley for 3, and he got it.
It's unbelievable. I haven't seen a guy improve like he has over the 2 years. In fact, many NBA scouts, Ron, are talking about this guy.
Really?
He's a pick and pop guy.
Yeah.
In the NBA, he's a perfect pick and pop guy. His man has to help on the screen. And you take a look here. When you're in the NBA, you have to guard the great point guards. So you guard them with 2 guys, and that leaves a pick and pop guy open. And he's done it on the offense and defensive ends tonight.
You know, just what he did against Kansas.
Oh, and they knocked off Tennessee back in November in the Legends Classic in Newark, New Jersey. Tennessee, as you know, knocked off number 1 Memphis this weekend. So Texas put 4 guys, Ron, in that game. 20-point scoring. Only time in history that's happened.
Ashley tonight is perfect from 3. The same thing he did in Austin against Kansas.
That's exactly right. 4 for 4. Well, you hate to say it, but it's a little too late now to go inside to your horse.
Ashley, 14 points, 7 rebounds, 6 of 6 from the field.
Connor Ashley, who Rick Barnes' staff had to beg him to offer a scholarship. He was so sure that Ashley would walk on until they walked into the Ashley home. And Ashley's mom said, Coach Barnes, I understand you're a bottom line guy. And he said, that's right. She said, well, Connor would like a scholarship, and he'll commit to Texas. And he said, okay. And she said, Connor, what do you think? Coach, I want to come to Texas. I think that was a scholarship well used. Would you say?
Oh, I don't think there's any question about it.
And there's one of those big kids that's kind of clumsy when he's in high school.
Well, the ball kicked, and it will stay with Texas. On the game talk is 47.3 and 34 seconds on the shot clock.
There may not be a team in the last 3 weeks playing as well as Texas is right now.
And Abrams is fouled. I think it's going to be Fred Brown, number 1, who will pick up the foul. That's double bonus for the Longhorns with 45.2 seconds left.
Well, you feel bad for Bill Walker because he's a high-energy guy. He plays with a lot of emotion, and the emotion fuels him. Sometimes it gets him in trouble, but for the most part, it's a positive. But tonight, the shots weren't going down, and Texas's defense for the 8th game in a row has been outstanding. You know, in talking to Rick Barnes last night, Ron, I thought he made a great point. He said when they lost to Missouri to start the Big 12 Conference, he thought his team wasn't ready for Big 12 play. They played such a great non-conference schedule that he felt they were a little bored going into conference play. And they started 3-2.
You know, it's interesting. You were standing there today when I asked him, but I knew the answer to it because one of the coaches had told me when they came back from Missouri, he took them straight from the bus, and instead of them heading to their dormitories, he took them to the film room, and for 2 hours, they went back over that video.
And they practiced.
At 7 a.m. the next morning.
Well, this guy's had a quiet 29, Michael Beasley. But I'm of the opinion he'll be the first pick in the draft. I remember saying that back in November when we saw him in the Old Spice Classic, and he's got a great demeanor about him on the floor.
He also has 15 rebounds to go with the points that he has scored.
Well, 30 points, 15 rebounds. And that's the 11th game with at least 30 points, and that surpasses a Kansas State record held by the great Bob Boozer.
Well, coming up next on SportsCenter, Best Freshman Phenom, Monday NFL Combine, and Greatest Highlight Final. All of that and more on SportsCenter. And we are inside of a minute, 44.8 seconds before we will take it to Bristol and the beginning of SportsCenter.
You know, it's funny, that guy in the studio, Digger Phelps, played a lot of zone in his career. And I'm sure he's looking on this Texas game plan tonight with some amusement because of how well that zone has worked.
So Texas sitting on top in the standings. Kansas is second. It'll be Kansas and K-State next. And then 4 teams deadlocked at 500, 6-6.
And we will have a huge game on Saturday as Texas A&M travels to Oklahoma and Norman. And that has huge implications.
Really important for both. It really is.
And you know why, Ron? Because remember, the 4th place team gets a bye in the first round of the tournament. I'm sure Baylor and Texas Tech are thinking about the same thing.
And the tournament this year moves to the beautiful new arena up in Kansas City. And then next year, the news that everybody, whether you're in the Big 8-12 or the Big 12 North or the Big 12 South, the tournament goes from Thursday, Sunday to Wednesday, Saturday. Augustine is grabbed on the way up the floor. Well, let's go back and look at the K-State resume and how crucial this win would have been.
Well, remember this. You mentioned it earlier. They've got to go to Kansas on Saturday. That's a huge game. And they've got Colorado at home, which they should take care of. Jeff Pizdelic has got that team playing hard. And, you know, it's never easy going up to Ames and Hilton Coliseum.
Hilton Magic is just that many times. I think this is the first time I've ever seen this. This is missing his first free throw. 2 of those, the beginning of 1-on-1 situations.
You know, Ron, this happened at Baylor late in the game when he got, and I thought it was because he got tired, because 3 of those misses in the Baylor game all hit front rim.
That's right.
Yep. I wouldn't mess too much with DJ Augustine's shot if I were Rick Barnes. But that one hit front rim as well.
Yep, sure did. 72-62. Pullen for 3.
Well, we're going to make some. Here's the press. Open guy down the floor.
Abrams almost lost it and then was pushed by Jacob Pullen.
You know, I'm really anxious to get to Lawrence on Monday. Texas Tech comes in and see the Jayhawks. I know they've struggled on the road. There's 3 games they've lost, but
one of the guys that you can't really foul for Texas, Abrams. By the way, that's the 5th foul on Jacob Pullen. 2 points is what he had on the evening, which is really, or Young, I beg your pardon, not Pullen, but Young.
Well, Blake Young, the senior. Frank Martin's got a lot of good young players coming into this program. A lot of these guys, people forget, 6 of his top 9 are freshmen. Beasley will be here next year. And most of the other part of this ensemble will.
What about Walker?
You know, Ron, I think he should stay and be a dominant player next year. I hear people saying he's going to come out. He's caught in between positions. He's not going to listen to me, but I would stay. Wow, how about Augustine and Abrams now?
By the way, Walker tonight 0 for 14.
Yep. If I were him, I would stay and dominate the Big 12 next year. But
Texas 9 of 20 on the free throw line.
See, Texas, even late in the game, will stay in that zone.
Beasley pulled up, didn't want to commit the foul, shot the soft jumper. He just got hit in the face.
I think Walker hit him accidentally.
Judgment Week presented by Jockey continues tomorrow on ESPN, 7 o'clock Eastern, Ohio State and Indiana. Then at 9 o'clock for the SEC, number 1 Tennessee takes on the Commodores of Vanderbilt. That one in Nashville. Super Tuesday presented by KFC.
Now, you know, I got
on ESPN.
I got connections in Nashville, and I understand that there's a country music treat in store for our basketball fans at the open of that game. I can't divulge any more than that, Ron. I've been sworn to secrecy. But by the way, what do you think of these? We know a lot of these guys well. There are some guys that have just been unbelievable this year.
I don't think you can argue with any of those.
And Keno Davis, the job they have done in resurrecting Drake, started by his dad, and now this year.
Pullen off the mark. Grabbed up by Freddie Brown. He will fire up a three. Tipped around, and it'll be Texas basketball with 7 seconds, and we will play no more. Texas will be unbeaten in February for the first time since 1962-63. So the final score is the Texas Longhorns win it 74-65. Up next on ESPN is SportsCenter. For more on this game, tune into ESPN News for a post-game extra. I'm Ron Franklin for Fran Fraschilla and Holly Rowe and our entire ESPN crew. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. So long, everybody, from Manhattan, Kansas. Longhorns win it. SportsCenter is next.